The Secret Life of a Neighborhood Saint and the BBQ Disaster. Well, they say the truth will set you free. But in my neighborhood, the truth usually just ruins a perfectly good rack of ribs. My name is Mark, and until last Saturday, I was the guy with the perfect life. You know the type. 2 kids who actually say please, a lawn that looks like a golf green, and a wife, Sarah, who is, well, she's the glue. She's the one who remembers everyone's birthdays and brings the homemade potato salad that actually tastes like something. We were hosting the annual end of summer block party. The sun was dipping low, the kids were screaming in the sprinkler, and the air smelled like charcoal and expensive bourbon. Everything was flawless until Dave got into the tequila. Dave's been my best friend since college. He's the kind of guy who's great at a tailgate, but terrible at a funeral or a secret. He was leaning against the porch railing, swaying just enough to make me nervous. "Hey, Sarah," he shouted, his voice cutting right through the music. "I gotta ask, how's the new place? Is the commute better?" Sarah stopped mid-laugh with our neighbor, Lisa. She blinked, holding a stack of paper plates. "The new place? Dave, we've lived here for 7 years. Are you finally seeing double?" Everyone laughed. It was a good joke, but Dave didn't laugh. He just squinted at her, looking genuinely confused. No, he slurred, waving a hand dismissively. "The other place, the loft, over on Harrison Street. Mark said you were moving the home office there to get away from the chaos of the house." The music seemed to die right there. Even the crickets shut up. I felt the blood drain out of my face so fast I thought I might pass out. I looked at Sarah. She wasn't confused anymore. She was looking at me with a look that wasn't anger. It was calculation. "Harrison Street?" she said, her voice dropping an octave. "Mark, we don't have an office on Harrison Street." "He's drunk, Sarah," I said. And even to my own ears, I sounded like a man drowning in an inch of water. "Dave, shut up. Let's get you some water." Nah, Dave continued, oblivious to the nuclear bomb he'd just dropped. "It's nice. I saw the pictures. Very modern. Lots of glass." Sarah didn't yell. She didn't throw a plate. She just set the potato salad down on the table, wiped her hands on her apron, and walked straight into the house. The silence that followed was heavy, like physical heavy. Neighbors suddenly found very interesting things to look at in their own shoes. One by one, they started whispering about early mornings and babysitters. Within 10 minutes, the perfect block party was a graveyard of half-eaten burgers and lukewarm beer. I walked inside. Sarah was sitting at the kitchen island. She wasn't crying. She had her laptop open. "The Harrison Lofts," she said, not looking up. "Unit 402. It's registered to a consulting firm that shares our home address." "Very clever, Mark." "Sarah, listen." "I'm listening," she interrupted, finally looking at me. Her eyes were like ice. "Tell me about the consulting firm. Tell me about the modern glass. And most importantly, tell me who has the second key." I tried to lie. I really did. I had 3 different stories ready to go. But when I looked at her, I realized the perfect life was already gone. It had ended the second Dave opened his mouth. "Her name is Elena," I whispered. "The air left the room." "6 months?" she asked. 8, I corrected, and it wasn't. "I didn't mean for it to." "Stop," she said, her voice sharp as a razor. "Don't give me the 'it just happened' speech. You rented a loft, Mark. You signed a lease. You bought furniture. You didn't slip and fall into a second life." She stood up, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out my gym bag. She threw it on the floor. "You have 10 minutes, she said. "The kids are at your mom's for the night, thank God. If you're still here when I come back downstairs, I'm calling your boss and Elena's boss. I assume you 2 work together." I didn't answer. I couldn't. "10 minutes, Mark," she repeated. As I packed that bag, I realized something. I had spent 8 months building a loft of lies, thinking I was a genius, thinking I was the only one who knew the truth. But as I drove away from that perfect lawn and that perfect house, I looked in the rearview mirror, and I saw Sarah standing on the porch holding a trash bag full of my clothes. She wasn't a victim. She was a woman taking out the garbage. And for the first time in years, the air finally felt clear. The silence between us and the cost of secret lives. Every Tuesday for 4 years, I told my wife Sarah the exact same thing. "Gonna be a late one at the office, babe. Don't wait up." The truth? I wasn't at the office. I was sitting in my car at the edge of the local park, eating a burger in total silence, or wandering through a hardware store I had no business being in. I didn't have a mistress. I didn't have a gambling problem. I just needed to not be husband of the year for 3 hours a week. I needed a break from the constant we and us. But 3 months ago, a heavy rainstorm canceled my plans to sit in the park. I pulled into our driveway 2 hours early, and my life shifted on its axis. There was a silver Lexus parked right where I usually sit. I didn't go inside. I sat down the street, my phone out, watching our smart lock logs. Guest access granted 7:15 p.m. The name on the log, Julian. Julian was Sarah's work friend who supposedly moved to Chicago last spring. My heart didn't just break. It turned into a cold, hard stone. I watched them through the living room window from the shadows. A glass of wine, a laugh that I hadn't heard in years, and then a kiss. Not a goodbye kiss. A stay forever kiss. I could have kicked the door down. I could have screamed. But honestly, I felt a strange, dark calm. If she wanted a secret life, I was going to give her a front row seat to how lonely one can be. The next 3 Tuesdays, I kept the routine. I'd go to work, but I'd actually park a block away and watch the Lexus arrive like clockwork. I took photos. I talked to a lawyer. I moved money. I was building a cage, and Sarah was happily walking right into it. The big play happened last week. We were eating breakfast, and I looked at her totally deadpan and said, "You know, I ran into Julian's brother yesterday. He said Julian is back in town. We should invite him over for dinner next Tuesday." Her fork didn't just stop. It hit the plate with a clatter. "Oh, really?" she stammered, her face turning the color of ash. I thought he was still in Chicago. "Small world, right?" I said, smiling, but not with my eyes. That Tuesday, I left for work at 6 but instead of the park, I went to the bar across from her favorite bistro. I knew her patterns. I knew she'd panic. At 7:30, I got a text. "Working late too, honey. Grab something on your way home?" I followed her. She didn't go to Julian's. She went to 3 different office complexes, looking for my car. She was terrified I was actually working, or that I was following her. I watched her through the window of a Starbucks as she paced, biting her nails, calling someone, likely Julian, to tell him the game was compromised. When I got home at midnight, she was sitting on the couch, the lights off. "How was work?" she asked. Her voice was trembling. "Productive," I said. "I finished everything. In fact, I'm all caught up. I don't think I'll ever need to work late again." The silence that followed was heavy. It was the sound of a 4-year lie meeting a 1-year betrayal. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I set my tablet on the kitchen island. I didn't leave a note. I just left the photo of the silver Lexus in our driveway, time-stamped, and the smart lock log log showing Julian's name. I was already at the new apartment. I'd leased 2 towns over when she finally called. I didn't answer. You see, we both wanted space. I wanted 3 hours of silence in a park, and she wanted a whole other man in our bed. Now, we both have all the space in the world. The house is for sale, Julian. He disappeared the second things got complicated. Turns out, secret lives are only fun when they stay secret. I still go to the park on Tuesdays, but now, I don't have to lie about where I'm going. And let me tell you, the silence tastes a whole lot better when it's honest.
The girl who woke up at 14. The party was loud, too loud. We were sitting on Sarah's back deck, the smell of charcoal and cheap citronella hanging in the humid July air. Someone brought up their first grade teacher, a woman named Mrs. Gable, who apparently looked like a literal hawk. Everyone started dying, laughing, swapping stories about playground weddings and stolen snacks. Then the circle turned to me. What about you, Leo? Sarah asked, leaning in with that expectant grin. Who was your kindergarten crush? I just sat there. I felt the ice in my drink melt against my palm. I searched. I really did. I looked for a face, a name, a smell, a finger, paint, nothing, just static. I don't really have one, I said, trying to play it off as being a cool kid. Oh, come on. A guy named Mike nudged me. Everyone remembers the first time they got sent to the principal's office. I forced a laugh. No, seriously, I don't remember being a kid at all. The deck went quiet, like crickets quiet. Sarah's smile didn't just fade, it kind of wilted. Leo, that's not a quirk. That's not normal. That night, the silence of my apartment felt heavy. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to force my brain to give up a single image. I knew the facts. I knew I grew up in a suburbs outside of Chicago. I knew my dog's name was Buster, but I didn't remember Buster. I just knew the data point. My first actual memory, the very first thing that feels like it belongs to me, is standing in the hallway of West High, smelling floor wax and nervous sweat, holding a blue binder. I was 14. Everything before that was a black hole. I called my mom the next morning. Hey mom, I said, trying to sound casual. Do we have any old videos, like from when I was 10? There was a pause, a long, jagged pause. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Why are you asking about that now, Leo? Her voice sounded brittle, like dry leaves. Just curious, I lied. I realized I can't really picture my old bedroom. It was a long time ago, honey, she whispered. Some things, they just fade. It's better to look forward, right? She hung up shortly after. She didn't say, I love you. She just clicked off. I couldn't let it go. That better to look forward felt like a warning. I started digging. I went to the attic of our old house while she was out at bridge club. I found the boxes. 4th grade, 5th grade soccer trophies. I opened the 4th grade box. There were drawings, but they weren't of houses or suns in the corner of the page. They were circles. Hundreds of black circles drawn so hard the crayon had snapped. And then I found the letter. It was from a clinic, the Willow Creek Institute. The date was August 24th, the year I turned 13. It talked about successful integration and voluntary suppression protocols. It mentioned a tier settlement agreement with a local private school. My stomach did a slow, nauseating flip. I wasn't just forgetful. I had been erased. I drove to Willow Creek, or where it used to be. It was a Starbucks now. I sat in my car, staring at people sipping lattes, where a doctor had once helped me delete a decade of my life. I realized then my parents hadn't been protecting my childhood. They had been protecting themselves. They had paid to make me forget whatever they couldn't fix. I walked into the Starbucks. I ordered a plain black coffee. The girl at the counter asked for my name. Leo, I said. She smiled, a bright, hollow American smile. Great, we'll call you when it's ready. I sat by the window. I don't have a childhood. I don't have a first crush, or a favorite tree, or a scar with a funny story. But as I watched the cars go by, I realized something. The black hole isn't empty. It's heavy. And maybe, just maybe, I don't need to remember the past to know that the people who raised me are strangers. I left the coffee on the table. I didn't look back. What would you do if you found out your smile was just a part of a legal settlement? Tell me in the comments. I really need to know.